Welcome to Beeston in Nottinghamshire, famously home of Boots. Their headquarters is just up the road. The company is the focus of our top story tonight. Now, when Gail Pickles started clearing out her father's home after he died, she made a shocking discovery about the medication he'd been taking. Unhappy with the response from his pharmacist, Boots, the country's largest pharmacy chain, Gail has, for the first time, decided to speak out about what went wrong. Sarah Sturdy reports.
Gail Pickles has come to Doncaster looking for answers after her father's death. It's taken 18 months to get here, the opening day of his inquest.
I'm exhausted. I've been left banging on closed doors, so I'm really hoping that finally, these next few days, we're going to get some answers.
Tony Lee died on December the 15th, 2016. He was 84.
He was a very sensitive man. He was really caring, really considered, a very, very fair man. And he loved his family.
He'd been coping well after the death of his wife, Betty.
They met as teenagers and they died within 5 months of each other.
When Tony died, Gail took on the sad task of clearing his house. One important job was to collect all his unused medication and return it to the Boots pharmacy near his home in Norton, South Yorkshire. Tony took lots of tablets for his heart, kidneys and one for anxiety. That last pill, Desulipin, can be toxic if you take too many.
There should have been 3 packs to dispose of because one had been taken to the hospital. But when I was looking through them, I found 6 and another empty pack from the same dates. It began to dawn on me that Dad had taken double his medications. It was a very scary moment.
Gail's dad got his Medisure packs every 4 weeks. They're designed to make it easier to take the right pill at the right time. Each of Tony's packs contain more than 100 tablets. Alarmed by what she found, especially the empty pack, Gail got in touch with Boots' local patient safety officer.
I told him that Dad had had 2 lots of his Medisure packs dispensed. He was horrified, and it was at that stage that I realised how serious this was. He promised me that Boots would be transparent, and I believed him.
Gail chased Boots for more information. In February 2017, the company wrote to her to say they couldn't comment on her father's case because of the inquest proceedings.
The tone of the second letter from Boots was shocking. This transparency that had been promised was non-existent, and I felt at that stage as though I was complaining about a broken washing machine or something. My father had died. To be left not knowing, it's hell. They're working for the NHS.
Boots has since apologised for the tone of that letter, but say they were as transparent as they could be while inquest proceedings were ongoing.
A trusted household name.
In January this year, Gail watched an investigation by this programme into Boots. It covered the deaths of 3 patients who died after pharmacy errors.
I felt I wanted to throw a brick through every single Boots store that I saw. I blame Boots for my father's death.
After the programme, Gail decided to hire her own legal team for the inquest.
I think it's a very sad state of affairs that someone has to come to you at your first meeting and say that one of the reasons they want legal representation is because they feel like they're David facing Goliath.
Gail felt her father's death should have been mentioned in the programme about Boots.
I can understand why Gail was extremely upset hearing that, because 4 months before the airing of the programme, the coroner's court received a report from Boots that he had apparently taken double the dose of his medications for a week, and that a toxicology report, which was both known to Boots and the coroner's court by that stage, stated that one of those medications was within the fatal range. Don't see why they couldn't have been more candid about it.
But Boots says when the programme was broadcast, the cause of death hadn't yet been determined at the inquest. Gail spent 18 months preparing for the hearing. She wanted to understand every detail. On the third day of the inquest, the assistant coroner said disclosure by Boots had been an ongoing issue. The hearing was told the job of dispensing his tablets had been moved from this Boots branch in Doncaster to one closer to home.
The store manager here at the time took a call and was told that the pharmacy had to stop dispensing Tony's medication. She told the inquest there were numerous distractions, both work and personal. She said she must have been pulled in a million directions. That crucial phone message was never passed to the pharmacy team.
Both branches were now dispensing Tony's tablets. He was getting a double dose. A week later, he was found collapsed in his bedroom and died in hospital. Boots say a combination of rare and exceptional circumstances led to the mistake, adding that their error rate is extremely low, one of the lowest in the industry. The assistant coroner concluded there'd been a communication breakdown and the double dose contributed to Tony's death. The thing that upset Gail most at the inquest was seeing an investigation report from Boots which said her father was unharmed.
I'm shocked. The worst part for me has been seeing the internal report in which they claimed that Dad was well and didn't need hospital treatment and that there was no need to escalate it to a higher level. How can they do that? How can this company be doing these things? I'm just appalled at them. There's been no apology from them. They haven't apologised to the family or to me.
Boots say they understand Mrs. Pickle's distress, but say the Chief Pharmacist's office was already supporting the investigation, adding they're saddened the family feel they weren't listened to and their concerns not addressed in the way they would have expected. Their statement says, "We're truly sorry about the death of Mr. Lee and deeply regret not apologising sooner." They say procedures have been updated, patient safety is their #1 priority, and have offered to meet Gail to discuss her concerns. Boots says they fully complied with the coroner's investigation. But it didn't end there. Gail obtained copies of Boots' own standard operating procedures to cross-check against 15 packs Tony had kept from 3 Boots pharmacies over 4 months. She believes that on numerous occasions, some steps weren't being followed.
Many were repeated. For example, on the Medisure packs, there's a space to write the week commencing. Had that been filled in, alarm bells might have rung for Dad. They hadn't labelled properly, for example, saying take so many times a day but not how many tablets. Had they phoned, as they're supposed to say a delivery's coming, they weren't doing that.
But Gail isn't a pharmacist, so we found an industry expert to take a look at the packs. Dr. Anthony Cox teaches the next generation of pharmacists.
The standard operating procedure in certain areas is never adhered to for these packs sample, and I want to see whether that was a more widespread problem.
And in Tony's case, where the packs were delivered, he should have got a phone call.
That would have increased the likelihood that there would have been some understanding about which pack should have been taken when.
Apart from the critical double dose, Dr. Cox couldn't find an error which on its own could have caused Tony harm.
If you were this pharmacy company,
What would you want to be investigating, looking into off the back of these 15 packs?
Does the standard operating procedure need reviewing? Do we need to look at our staffing levels? Do we need to look at workload per pharmacy? I'd be interested to actually go away and look at maybe a bigger sample of packs that have been supplied, and also perhaps go away and really find out on the ground what pharmacists' views of standard operating procedures are.
Boots accepts there were some failings to comply with standard operating procedures in this case, but says they're not symptomatic of a wider problem. Boots say they asked for feedback on the procedures in July 2016 from pharmacists to identify any additional support needed. Responding to Inside Out's programme in January, Boots said they were confident they had both the resource to deliver patient care and enough pharmacy staff.
I don't think that any pharmacist goes to work thinking that they're going to cut corners and harm patients. They're going to work to do their job properly. Don't they have the time to do it? Don't they have the staff to do it?
Pharmacists are horrified when they've made an error. If you are getting errors and violations occurring, then you do need to look at your standard operating procedures. You do need to look at staffing. You do need to look at the workload pressures on people to see whether they're contributing to that.
Boots says they've contacted Dr. Cox to discuss patient safety further, and that they work with others in the industry to drive best practice, including the analysis of staffing.
My family were very, very wrong to place our trust in that company. If I hadn't looked through Dad's medication, if I had just bundled them up and taken them back to the pharmacy, none of this would have come to light.
Well, we've passed Gail's concerns on to the General Pharmaceutical Council and they are investigating. Gail herself is now considering a civil claim.